Kurosawa Akira, born March 23, 1910, Tokyo, Japan. Passed September 6, 1998, Tokyo, was the first Japanese film director to win international acclaim. Kagemusha, The Shadow Warrior, released in 1980, was the director's first samurai film in 14 years. It concerns a petty thief who is chosen to impersonate a powerful feudal lord killed in battle. This film was notable for its powerful battle scenes. Kurosawa's next film, Ran, 1985, Chaos, was an even more successful samurai epic. An adaptation of Shakespeare's King Lear set in 16th-century Japan, the film uses sons instead of daughters as the aging monarch's ungrateful children. Ran was acclaimed as one of Kurosawa's greatest films in the grandeur of its imagery, the intellectual depth of its screen adaptation, and the intensity of its dramatic performances. His last three films, Dreams, 1990, Rhapsody in August, 1990, and Matadeo, 1993, were not as well received. Although other Japanese filmmakers acquired substantial international followings after the pioneering success of Rashomon, Kurosawa's films continue to command great interest in the West. They represent a unique combination of elements of Japanese art, in the subtlety of their feeling and philosophy, the brilliance of their visual composition, and their treatment of samurai and other historic Japanese themes, with a distinctly Western feeling for action and drama and a frequent use of stories from Western sources, both literary classics and popular thrillers. Kurosawa was a recipient of numerous film and career honors, including a Golden Lion for career achievement at the 1982 Venice Film Festival, an Academy Award for Lifetime Achievement, 1989, the Directors Guild of America's Lifetime Achievement Award, 1992, and the Japan Art Association's Premium Imperiale Prize for Theater/Film, 1992. In 1960 Kurosawa set up Kurosawa Productions, of which he became president, and began to produce his own works. As producer, however, he was continually embarrassed by economic difficulties. Throughout the 1960s, Kurosawa made a number of entertainment films, mainly with samurai as leading characters. Yojimbo, 1961, The Bodyguard, is a representative work. Akahige, 1965, Red Beard, combines elements of entertainment with a sentimental humanism. In the 1960s, however, Japanese cinema fell into an economic depression, and Kurosawa's plans, in most cases, were found by film companies to be too expensive. As a result, Kurosawa attempted to work with Hollywood producers, but each of the projects ended in failure. At the Kyoto studio in 1968, for 20th Century Fox, he started shooting Tora! A war film dealing with the air attack on Pearl Harbor. The work progressed slowly, however, and the producer, fearing an excess in estimated cost, dismissed Kurosawa and replaced him with another director. After a 6-year interval, Kurosawa at last managed to present another of his films, Dodesikaden, 1970, Dodesikaden. His first work in color, a comedy of poor people living in slums, it recaptured much of the poignancy of his best works but failed financially. The period of personal despondency and artistic silence that followed ended in the mid-1970s when Kurosawa filmed Dersu Uzala, 1975, in Siberia at the invitation of the Soviet government. This story of a Siberian hermit won wide acclaim. The epic Shishinin no Samurai, Seven Samurai, is considered the most entertaining of Kurosawa's films and also his greatest commercial success. It depicts a village of peasants and a few leaderless samurai who fight for the village against a gang of marauding bandits. Although it was inspired by his admiration of Hollywood westerns, it was executed in an entirely Japanese style. Somewhat ironically, Kurosawa's film later served as the inspiration for one of the greatest American westerns, John Sturgis's The Magnificent Seven, 1960. Ikemono no Kiroku, 1955, I Live in Fear, or Record of a Living Being, is a deeply honest film portraying a Japanese foundry owner's terror of the atomic tests conducted by the United States and the Soviet Union. Its pessimistic conclusion, however, made it a commercial failure. Kurosawa was also noted for his adaptations of European literary classics into films with Japanese settings. Hakuchi, 1951, The Idiot, is based upon Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel of the same title. Kumanosujo, Throne of Blood, was adapted from Shakespeare's Macbeth, and Donzoko, 1957, The Lower Depths, was from Maxim Gorky's drama. Each of these films is skillfully Japanized. Throne of Blood, which reflects the style of the sets and acting of the Japanese no play and uses not a word of the original text, has been called the best film of all the countless cinematized Shakespearean dramas. Kurosawa's pictures contributed a strong sense of style to the artistic Japanese film, which had been pursuing a naturalistic trend. The violent action of his more commercial works also exerted a powerful influence. Kurosawa's Waga Seishin ni Kwanashi, 1946, No Regrets for Our Youth, portrays the history of Japanese militarism from 1933 through the end of the war in terms of a person executed on suspicion of espionage during the war. Of the many post-war films criticizing Japanese militarism, this was the most successful, both artistically and commercially. It was Yoidore Tenshi, 1948, Drunken Angel, however, that made Kurosawa's name famous. This story of a consumptive gangster and a drunken doctor living in the post-war desolation of downtown Tokyo is a melodrama intermingling desperation and hope, violence, and melancholy. The gangster was portrayed by a new actor, Mifune Toshiro, who became a star through this film and who subsequently appeared in most of Kurosawa's films. Kurosawa's Rashomon was shown at the Venice Film Festival in 1951 and was awarded the Grand Prix. It also won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. This was the first time a Japanese film had won such high international acclaim, and Japanese films now attracted serious attention all over the world. An adaptation of two short stories written by Akutagawa Ryanosuke, the film deals with a samurai, his wife, a bandit, and a woodcutter in the 10th century. A rape and a murder are recollected by the four persons in distinctly different ways. This presentation of the same event as seen by different persons caught the imagination of the audience and advanced the idea of cinema as a means of probing a metaphysical problem. Ikiru, To Live, is regarded by many critics as one of the finest works in the history of the cinema. It concerns a petty governmental official who learns he has only half a year until he will die from cancer. He searches for solace in the affection of his family but is betrayed, then seeks enjoyment but becomes disillusioned, and, in the end, is redeemed by using his position to work for the poor. In this film, which abounds in strong moral messages, Kurosawa depicts in an extremely realistic manner the collapse of the family system, as well as the hypocritical aspects of officials in post-war Japanese society. The picture was an outstanding document of the life and the spiritual situation of Japanese people, who were then beginning to recover from the desperation caused by defeat in the war. Kurosawa's father, who had once been an army officer, was a teacher who contributed to the development of athletics instruction in Japan. After leaving secondary school, Kurosawa attended an art school and began painting in the Western style. Although he was awarded important art prizes, he gave up his ambition to become a painter and in 1936 became an assistant director in the PCL Cinema Studio. Until 1943 he worked there mainly as an assistant to Yamamoto Kajiro, one of Japan's major directors of World War II films. During this period Kurosawa became known as an excellent scenarist. Some of his best scenarios were never filmed but only published in journals, yet they were noticed by specialists for their freshness of representation and were awarded prizes. In 1943 Kurosawa was promoted to director and made his first feature film, Sanshiro Sugata, from his own scenario. This story of Japanese judo masters of the 1880s scored a great popular success. In 1944 he made his second film, Ichiban Atsukushiku, The Most Beautiful, a story about girls at work in an arsenal. Immediately thereafter, he married the actress who had played the leading part in the picture, Yaguchi Yoko. They had two children, a son and a daughter. In August 1945, when Japan offered to surrender in World War II, he was shooting his picture Tora no o Fumo Otakatachi, They Who Step on the Tiger's Tail, a parody of a well-known kabuki drama. The Allied occupation forces, however, prohibited the release of most films dealing with Japan's feudal past, and this outstanding comedy was not distributed until 1952.